Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for July 22nd of 2023, and currently there is a dual slight risk setup, one for the southern Dixie states from the Georgian coast into central Louisiana, and a slight risk for southern Nebraska into northern and western parts of Kansas. And the marginal threat around that does extend all the way from parts of eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin, all the way as far south as parts of New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle, as well as a marginal threat for southern Arizona. We've been seeing a lot of these lately. I'm not sure what's up with that. However, as for our threats for today, we don't really have all that much of a tornado threat. However, we do have a 15% wind threat for both slight risk areas with a 5% around that, as well as for hail, there is a 5% for the Dixie slight risk, as well as a 15% with a hatch significant region for the slight risk over towards the Central Plains. So we could see the possibility of large to very large and possibly even gorilla hail, as well as a 5% that extends across the northern reaches of that marginal threat region. Taking a look at our pivotal weather model, starting off with our 500 millibars, you can see across the areas that are going to be affected, we have some fairly strong mid-level flow. It is more moderate. It's not in like the pinks like we were seeing earlier this week. It is going to be much more moderate mid-level flow. However, this is going to allow for the possibility of some elongated photographs in the areas that are going to be affected, mainly more so towards the Central Plains, where we could see the possibility of some strong speed shear. And I don't think we're going to get all that strong speed shear over towards the southern Dixie states, as we only really have a 5% hail threat there. However, across the Central Plains, we could definitely see the possibility of some fairly strong speed shear in place, as we do have that had significant hail threat. So we could again see the possibility of large to very large and possibly even gorilla hail across the Central Plains. But across the areas that are going to be affected, it is primarily mostly zonal flow, so we shouldn't really see all that much of a tornado threat for today. Taking a look at our dew points, starting off the slight risk region for the southern Dixie states, you can see that we do have some fairly strong dew points. We got dew points that are in the tropical levels, dew points that are in the mid 70s, and with whatever lapse rates we have, we could definitely see the possibility of Cape values that do reach at minimum the 3000s. And then back towards the Central Plains, you can see that we do have some fairly strong but much more moderate dew points. They are dew points that are in the upper 50s as well as the low to mid 60s. And with whatever lapse rates we have, we could definitely see the possibility of much more moderate instability back towards this region. Taking a look at our lapse rate, starting off with the slight risk region for the southern Dixie states, you can see that we do have some fairly strong, much more moderate lapse rates. Lapse rates that are mostly in the 6s, possibly getting up to those 7s. This is going to allow for the possibility of, again, at minimum 3000 Cape, probably going to be mostly around the 2000 to 3000 range. What this means in terms of wind and hail is that we could see the possibility of some isolated small hail, as well as the possibility of some fairly strong damaging outflow gusts. However, without the possibility of strong speed shear, which I will definitely check on our bulk shear models, we kind of need that for the majority of our hail threat. So without that, we won't really see all that much of a possibility of hail. However, strong lapse rates do aid in hail development a ton. However, back towards the Central Plains, you can see that we do have some fairly strong lapse rates as well. Lapse rates that are in the 6s and possibly getting up to the 7s as well further out to the west. With that, we could definitely see the possibility of some fairly strong instability as well. Again, mostly being in the moderates with fairly weak but definitely sufficient lapse rates for Cape values that do reach the moderates. Maybe the low 3000s, but I don't think that's going to be all that plausible with the dew points that we are given. And what this means in terms of wind and hail is that we could see the possibility of some, again, large to very large hail aided by lapse rates, but we could also see the possibility of some fairly strong damaging outflow gusts. Taking a look at our instability, starting off with the slight risk region for the southern Dixie states, you can see that we do have some fairly strong instability in place. It is mostly going to be around the 2000s, the upper 2000s, as well as the low to mid 3000s, maybe getting up to those upper 3000s in some regions, like in southern Mississippi here. However, it is mostly going to be around the 2000s to 3000s and the mid 3000s range. This will lead to the possibility of some isolated small hail, aided by the strong lapse rates that we have. However, with the possibility of weak speed shear, we aren't going to see all that much of an increased hail threat. And then back towards the central plains, you can see that we do have some fairly moderate instability cape values that are mostly staying around the 1000s to 2000s in triple digits range. That's going to lead to the possibility of some large to very large hail, as well as the possibility of some fairly strong damaging outflow gusts, with some fairly strong speed shear in place. Again, we can see the possibility of elongated photographs and the possibility of large to very large hail. Taking a look at our bulk shear, our 0 to 6 kilometer bulk shear, I mainly focus on this so we can get an idea of our speed shear. I don't really look at this for our directional shear, and I probably won't look at our directional shear for today because of the fact that we do not have all that much of a tornado threat for today. So I will be ending it with our bulk shear, and again, I'll be mostly looking at bulk shear for so we can get an idea of our speed shear and our hail threat. So starting off with the bulk shear for the Southern Dixie slight risk, you see that we don't really have all that strong bulk shear in place. We do have some regions of bulk shear that is reaching the 30 knots. That is going to be sufficient enough for some isolated small hail across the entire region. And then back towards the central plains, you can see that we do have a very, very strong speed shear in place. A lot of this isn't going to be directional shear, so it shouldn't be contaminated all that much by directional shear because it is primarily zonal flow in both locations. Strong bulk shear in the 60 and 50 knots is going to allow for the possibility of some very, very strong speed shear and allow for the possibility of some fairly elongated photographs and the possibility of our large to very large hail and possibly even gorilla hail. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator. Join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator, and if you live in any of the areas that I covered for severe weather development for today, please stay weather alert for the time being. And I likely will not be able to post a forecast for the rest of this week as I will be going on vacation. However, later today I will have a weekly overlook out for weather for this week, as I will not again be able to cover severe weather for next week. So stay safe next week. Hopefully I will be able to see you guys next week with another forecast.